Well, hey, everyone, welcome to the Gundam Explain show. I'm your host, Adam Blue. And join me, luckily, I didn't know nowadays with Steven if he's going to show or not. No, but he's
Yeah,
here. No,
Captain
it's cool.
Unreliable here.
Hey, and you know what? I have that same shirt.
It's a popular look. I got to tell you, this Midnight Hatter logo.
Yeah, I know. But I can't see what's on your shirt, Kyle. But we've also got Kyle here. No,
I got a
classic
blank
black.
shirt. Just black. Just traditional.
Classic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, love it.
Yeah.
No, that looks good. And this is a shirt that I have 5 of, and I think people might have noticed. It seems like I wear the same shirt a lot, but
Well,
It's a handle.
you've got the Zuckerberg thing going on, where it's like you just wear the same thing,
Well,
so that you
that's-
don't have to dedicate mental energy
Yeah,
towards what you're wearing.
that's eventually where my mind came to with a lot of things, even food. It's almost like I pre-place things in the fridge, so I just get it and get going. But anyway, I guess that's enough for. Oh, go
The
ahead.
cool thing about a Henley is that anyone who wears it, you always assume they just came from an adventure. So that's
Yes.
a good choice. You got that
I
Uncharted
like.
going on.
Yeah.
Well, because it could be at any minute I need to be doing something physical, and I'm dressed for it in a way.
There you go.
I don't know. I think that maybe that's what it is.
I think you need to be pushing blocks around like an Aztec temple or something like that.
Oh yeah, there you go. Or just nipping plastic. I guess sitting at my desk, which
That counts
hey,
as a quest.
no, but yeah, we'll be talking about a little bit of that today. No, but it's cool to have Kyle here because it's actually, and guys, it might sound odd. I'm going to do some post for my mic. My mic went out right before this started, but um, this is the 200th episode of the Gundam Explain show, and it's just kind of cool to think, where I was like, okay, I just got to start going live. I was just first, I think I just pre-recorded the podcast, and I was like, well, I'll do it live. It's less editing, and it's taught me a lot over the time, like of doing that, and then getting Steven on, and then having guests has always helped.
Dude, and congratulations on the milestone. And for those of you who don't know, it is a weekly show. So 200 is what, 4 years roughly?
Yeah, I know. But and then not only that, but then your show on Wednesdays, which is probably more than 200.
I don't know. We'll have to tally that up and see
Okay.
where we're at, because I've had
Because
so many hiatuses with these kids, man.
But oh yeah, I know, right? Kids, come on. But speaking of tons of episodes, Kyle putting out a bunch of content. You had, I guess, for maybe people that don't know you, Kyle, if you want to talk about Simply Newtype and maybe some other stuff you do.
Yeah, so I do Simply Newtype on YouTube. I make videos about Gundam for the most part. It started out as a history kind of companion video about Universal Century and kind of spread to there. Now it's just me and making fun of most of you guys for the most part, and it's great. I love it. What it's evolved into is pretty funny. I like how it's kind of like this, like what are those two dudes from the Muppets? It's like those mixed with those guys mixed with the Watcher from Marvel. And that's kind of like my position in the Gundam universe. Is like this heckler, this omniscient heckler.
I like that you had that intention, because when doing like stuff, I love live action skits. I love when people make that stuff. It's so cool, and I always wonder what the intention. Sometimes it might just be as simple as, oh, I'd like to do something live action. Here's some costumes. But I like what you said though about the heckler, kind of of the universe, and making the commentary while having the discussion. And yeah,
you're the guy that holds up the mirror to the Gundam fans and says, like, this is you.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
so funny because when we first met, like, I always thought of you as like the Black Pants Legion of Gundam, right? Like, you were the guy that was like the lore guy. But then I think almost I don't know how far into it you got, but when you started to like find your voice and almost start infusing that level of comedy and that level of like that sardonic humor that just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So follow the Twitter. Hey, which Twitter is it that you use? Because I know there's Free Speech Geek and
pretty much just Free Speech Geek now. Yeah.
Oh, it's just free. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Follow it. Hilarious. Yeah. Along the lines of the commentary of Gundam.
Oh yeah, I've been making fun of a lot of people. I've been very unhinged on X recently.
But I think you do it in a way that's like it gives off like a comedian's charm, so it never really feels like toxic, I guess is a good way to put it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it doesn't.
Yeah. I really think so. Yeah.
Well, because anybody that tried to argue with you would just end up looking silly. Like it's just
Yeah, because there's truth to a lot of these little things, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. But well, let me ask you: has there with your lore videos and those specifically, has
Mhm.
there been a specific way you go at that? If it's more of a this is what I'm interested in right now, or hey, I've heard people talking about this specific subject. How do you get to that part?
So for the most part, it's just whatever I feel like doing.
Like,
Yeah, and I just kind of go from there. I try not to keep a schedule for that reason. Lately I have been at least telling people like what the weekly videos will be that week. So it's not a complete like shot in the dark. And I don't do it as much as I used to, but earlier, like if you asked for something, I would do it. It was that
no,
easy. Yeah.
No, that actually helps me too. When sometimes when people will post something like, "Oh, you should do this next," I'm like, you know what? Hey, that's actually a pretty good idea. Part of it too is then I think that's what we have in common. All of us like piques our interest. Oh, what is that lore? Oh yeah, that would be interesting to find out. And then sometimes I might do a series of videos or just one or two, but that's cool. I like this kind of the process of how we come to like figuring out how we make our videos and all that. Any plans for like and actually to be more clear, if people didn't get it, like you do your lore videos, but you also do the the live action stuff, which is that's a lot of cool content for a channel.
Yeah.
Any other things that you haven't done yet that you've been thinking about doing in terms of Gundam content?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I want to do, which I've talked to you guys in the past to think about it. It's been in kind of hold. Definitely, this kind of like this shorts that I'm doing on the channel are kind of a stepping stone into more kind of. I guess more professional things. Like it's just in front of a green screen. I want to do things like actually on location and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
kind of a stepping stone to that. And I've told you some cool locations that I'm around that I want to kind of shoot at. That would be perfect for a Gundam.
Because you're on the West Coast, right?
Yes, I'm on the West Coast. I have a lot of cool places around me. I'm not too far from like Edwards Air Force Base, or like there's just so many things. I'm around a lot of things that I could just drive, and it's pretty cool. That's the one cool thing. I grew up in a small town south of Los Angeles that's kind of closer to Edwards Air Force Base. So like I grew up around a lot of like aerospace stuff. And
oh, that's cool. Like so that's interesting because my dad was in the Air Force, but he never talked about it, never made it a big deal. In fact, like he never even talked to me about ever
down.
But he never did any flying actually. No, he actually never did any flying. But what was interesting is it was just because of that I felt like I was kind of interested. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And then, in the early 90s, Desert Storm was happening and they'd make the micro machines. That's when I got into like, oh, the military weapons. Oh, that's badass, but okay, so you're saying you're around the Air Force Base. So would you see a bunch of different types of planes and jets?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I used to go to the Edwards Air Force Air Show like every year. And when I was in high school, I was in Air Force Junior ROTC, so I used to do a lot of volunteering there and stuff too. So that's kind of like why I'm into Gundam is like I actually wanted to be a robot pilot at one point, and then I realized, oh, this is never going to happen. I'm going to live in my head for the rest of my life.
Dude, the pilot thing, I'm right there with you. Did you ever see like the Blue Angels? Would they
that's more of a Navy thing. The Air Force had the Thunderbirds, which
I didn't know. Yeah, it was different from that's pretty neat. Yeah, because that's another thing growing up. My dad would take me to the air shows, and so that's another scene. And that's the thing with the air shows, the types of planes they would show, the aircraft would have decals and stickers on them. So I think that's another thing with real type markings I like because I can kind of well, cool. So again, check out Kyle's channel. It's linked below. Most of you probably already know, but other good Gundam content. If you're looking for Gundam content, But another thing I want to talk about is a G-Quux. Okay, so G-Quux. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with this latest episode. almost to where I will say it has set my expectations finally. Like I almost did not know. I felt like it's almost been like a roller coaster inside me of like, okay, is this connecting to the greater UC in some like way that's going to blow my mind?
Right.
Oh, or is this going to be just some neat little anime on the side? But just this episode showing playing the Zeta, the Titans theme music with the Psycho Gundam showing up. I loved it. And that reminded me of, things maybe not to the same degree, but Luke Skywalker showing up in Mandalorian. It's things you remember and it's cool.
Now, I didn't catch your watch along. Did you cry?
No, but I did a hey, no, but you know what? I wonder if I had seen the original Zeta or Gundam back when it came out, when other things that have come out have kind of, like Cuckoo's Doan's Island, if you had gone that far and then saw that. For me, I never saw the original Star Wars movies in the theater, so in the 90s when they were playing them, it was amazing because it was like you see Star Wars and then the thing. So yeah, it does that.
But then I just want to just kind of stay here for a second. That 97 re-release really was like magical.
Oh,
I'm glad about that. Yeah, when I because I think there's something about like most modern Star Wars fans is that there was like my whole life there's no Star Wars, and then everyone's just like, there's this thing called Star Wars. Here's a VHS, enjoy, and then it's back on the theater again. It was something that was just huge.
I completely agree with you because it was a few years before they had it in the theaters where I would build Legos of, because I was into the jet fighters, but of ships and be like, man, spaceships. You know what? There's that old Star Wars movie I heard of, and we had the recorded copy of Return of the Jedi. But for some reason, it always started at the Battle of Endor. Like I never watched the Jabba part, so I'm watching all this badass space battles all the time, and it kind of and then you're right. Like then the special editions, and as someone that's a fan of filmmaking, I'm like, dude, George Lucas is going back and doing all this, so I'm getting my cardboard and I'm building Mos Eisley and putting my aliens and the video camera. Like
put Jabba in episode 1.
Yeah, it's like it's like that whole thing. Like, what in the world? Then and then go into the theater, and so it was. It's interesting because I almost feel like I haven't, I guess relatively, but I don't have the real nostalgia that I feel like some you guys that I talk to, especially when you guys talk about Toonami. Yeah, I knew the Toonami thing, but I didn't pay attention to that. And so it's interesting, and I think part of the nostalgia too is sometimes like the stuff from Gundam, especially Zeta. It's kind of like 80s stuff that I was into anyway, like animation, how it was outsourced. And so then you would see the similar things. But Kyle, I want everyone to hear Steven's opinion on this. But first I'll ask Kyle, because I know, Steven, as much as I love Zeta, I think Steven is the big Zeta head. So Kyle,
yes.
We'll go with you first. What did you think of this episode and like the Zeta callbacks and stuff?
Oh, I loved it. I loved everything about it for the most part. I shouldn't say I love everything about it, but I just loved, I guess, the nostalgia of it all, which was great. I'm a huge Zeta fan. Zeta is probably one of my top. Yeah, it's probably up there. Seeing this was amazing. The Psycho Gundam was great. The moment where they're all like, you know what? This isn't a Gundam show anymore. This is an Ava show. And then they just started doing some Ava stuff. I'm like, cool. All right. I'm okay with that too. Which worked because one thing I love about G-Quux is the flatness of it. And I've talked about this before in the past. If you look at like the old animation, it has a depth, but it's still flat, like an ukiyo-e painting almost, a Japanese woodblock print. And that's kind of what we're seeing with G-Quux. It's like you get the details of like modern digital, but they're like, it's flat. They're just floating JPEGs sometimes. And I love that. I personally love that, honestly.
Yeah, you're describing actually, the thing where it's almost like I'm watching a kung fu movie that's filmed correctly, where you're actually seeing everything. I get the feeling of that with the mobile suits.
Interesting.
The way the art works in this, because sometimes it can be a mess. Like seed freedom sometimes when there's all this, the 3D mixed with the 2D, and it's like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the problem with a lot of the 3D stuff that I see in
Mhm.
Gundam. It's getting far better, and I'm excited for where
Yeah.
it's going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of all over the place, especially, and that's one thing about if you're a big, anime fan. A lot of people hated 3D when it first came out. So, like personally, Unicorn when that came out, I remember hating Unicorn.
Yeah.
I recently did a
Fantastic.
rewatch. Yeah, I recently did a rewatch for the channel, and I actually enjoyed it, minus that nonsense ending. But yeah, the animation itself is interesting. I don't like that 3D look as much. It's just not there yet. I'm seeing Kukuru's Doan's Island is one of the better, I think, examples of kind of integrating both 3D and 2D.
Yeah.
Origin kind of got it there, and then things like Witch from Mercury and G-Quux, when they go 3D, it still takes it a little over. Takes a little over when it goes 3D. Where you're
Yeah,
like, no, this is a video game. It feels like.
Oh yeah, that's a good point you bring up the video game, because I don't know if we can speak on this technically, Steven. I don't know if you know, but like it's sometimes like with the animation when going in 3D, and I look at this at G-Quux, is it a matter of the frames per second the 3D is? Because it could be just a consistent, because when you're hand drawing, sometimes I feel like the frame of an animation could be dynamic.
Yeah, like
right?
in hand-drawn animation, you skip frames and you have keyframes where it's like, okay, this we definitely want Machu's mouth open wide when she goes, ah, but like you're not going to show every frame of her opening her mouth. And so when you see a mobile suit floating in space and you get to see literally every angle of it, it takes you out of it because you can recognize that it's a 3D model. Literally all they have to do is take that 30 frames per second animation and cut it down to 12, and then all of a sudden it looks like it's jittery, like it's an actual animation.
Yeah, and wasn't there, and you might have shared this with me, Steven, like a fan-made Macross 3D animation? It was in Blender or something, and they just did it. They did it just right.
It wasn't me that shared it with you, but I remember it was someone on the Discord server, and it looked fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so any other thoughts about this episode? And I'm gonna get with Steven.
Yeah, let's see. I'm curious of I want to know if the writers are trolling the fans a little bit, because there's this thing where they'll bring in we'll talk like Gates Kappa, right? They'll bring in like a guy that just no one gave a shit about, and then they bring him in, and then they're all like, fucking Gates Kappa, don't you guys remember freaking Gates Kappa? And I'm like, yeah, barely, kind of.
Yeah.
And then they just instantly kill him off. I wonder if it's like a slight troll of just like getting those fans riled up for like a week before they're like,
you're right. It has to be, because you would think they would know this stuff, Well,
I think what it is that the writers are trying to. It's like they're trying to get the street cred of acknowledging that they're Gundam fans. It's like, we get it. We know that you're Gundam fans because you're working on a Gundam franchise. You don't need to bring up Milpo Sklint or like, the fact that that Shalia Bull, a character who was only in one episode and died, is now like at the core of the entire narrative of this show. It's like they're basically trying to prove like, oh yeah, no, we're not fair weather Gundam fans. We are like, these are the deep cuts. We know all of the deep lore. Like, we're in it. And I'm just like, you don't have to prove yourself to me. Just make a good show.
That is a good point, because what is then fun and interesting about it is those deep cuts and not really the substance of them.
Well said.
So, Steven, real quick, what is your take then on this latest episode?
The latest episode was by far my favorite. Cool. And for a lot of reasons, because, I think that we finally get a look into Nian's character. It's a very brief look, but like you get to see that there is actually some turmoil going on in her life. You get to see that there's stuff going on with Machu beyond just wanting to be a jellyfish. Like, that maybe there is some tension between her and her mother that hasn't been explored yet. So, for as rewarding as the UC member berries are, and they are, especially like you said, the Zeta music, when that started playing, my heart stopped. And then like all the Zeta callbacks, the Hambrabi, Gates himself, that stuff was all fantastic. But we also get more of the G-Quux story, which to me, like I'm going to keep saying this until I'm dead, is I would have just liked to see G-Quux by itself without being tied down with the UC baggage.
You know, it's funny because I was always saying that about Witch from Mercury. Like, I was kind of digging this more chill school storyline and then dueling, but then it like tried to be Gundam.
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
Identity
Because yeah,
crisis.
G-Quux, you know, even though I would rather be watching some sci-fi mecha anime, sometimes when you're in a situation where you're learning about a show and a story, you'll end up liking it. And I think G-Quux had potential to focus just on that. But yeah, it does seem like a mix of we love Gundam. We want to kind of play in the world and do whatever we want. And maybe even to the point to where they're like, yeah, we won't lose money on this, so do whatever you want. I don't know. Because it does seem like it comes from that, of a do whatever you want.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of creative freedom given there.
Which is cool. And sometimes you need that with IPs, you know, after a while. And it's not in the, you know, the universe. Well, let me ask then, are there any like guesses of what could possibly be going on? Because seeing the Zek Nova happen when it was Neon and Shuji that hugged when that happened, I totally forgot.
Yeah, Neon and Shuji.
Okay.
So well, before we go into that, Kyle, did
Yes.
you watch the movie prior to watching the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Because I think that's a big point of contention that I always like to bring up, because the movie obviously has basically episode 2 and now episode 7. So the movie pacing is episode 2, episode 7, episode 1, episode 3. Am I getting that right? Where it's like you get the UC part, the second part of UC, and then the intro to Machu, and then the first clan bat. And so now we're about to see something that a lot of people had already seen in theaters. So
yeah, but like I forgot, did they just not show the incident? They just talked about it? With the asteroid?
Skipped it. They just skipped right to the ending where he blows up.
Yeah.
Right, but they didn't. But they mentioned it, right? Because Zek Nova. Because I think they used the, or was it the first?
I think it's just the word, not even an explanation.
Yeah,
okay.
Which is funny.
I'm curious what that means. Like, because they hugged and that happened, does that mean, you know, there's going to be another character? Like, and there always is another character. It's the death of the week. You know, what character are they going to introduce that is going to die?
We need Jared's girlfriends to be in the show so that we.
I know. Let's go.
But hey, shout out to Classic Quarter Gameplays here.
Oh, hey, yeah, Classic Quarter Gameplay, man, right there again with $12. Hoping the black hole is a time warp where the timeline gets fixed. Plus the RX and G-Quux. The RX looks like the perfect grade bones. So when Char took it was earlier unfinished. It looks good. So yeah, a couple things there. This is a good point he brought up about the black hole, because I remember I said this during the watch along and I totally forgot. I happen to love researching quantum mechanics. It doesn't mean like I'm a genius or I'm smart or I know what I'm talking about. I just love that. And the way they were describing the reverse Kira Kira is actually kind of describing energy exchanges at the quantum level. Because, for instance, hydrogen, or is it hydrogen, has an electron basically perpetually. It's hard to get in on this topic. I think one of my videos I talked about a little bit, but anyway, because of the talking about the Kira Kira kind of having that more inverse reaction, that means there would have been some sort of singularity that occurred. And for a second on the Red Gundam, you see that, or I'm assuming, like, you don't really know what. So it's almost like, and so for Classic Quarter Games to bring this up, I'm glad he did, because introducing what's potentially a black hole because of the singularity, does that mean this could be timeline involved, time travel involved? Which the only reason I'm now saying that is because it looks like they're willing to go crazy with introducing characters just to kill them, introducing crazy things like crunching timelines together. What do you guys think about time travel? I almost think they should. Has what's his name done that before? Kara Studios.
Anno.
Yeah. Is time in any of their storytelling?
Kind of. I mean, not in the, I guess, time traveling sense, but in the sense that I'm kind of stuck in the past sense.
Oh, okay.
And isn't Evangelion all about like merging into a singular consciousness?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, especially if you watch End of Evangelion, if that makes sense. If you
Yeah.
try to make sense of it, it seems like there's something going on there.
Oh yeah, because I haven't watched all that, but I kind of like that direction.
But you know,
Interesting.
Adam, I do like the idea that you're bringing up around like physics, because it does seem like this is a more practical explanation of the sort of gravitational pull that they talk about in Zeta, where, you know, Camille is always talking about like, you know, I feel like I'm like drawn towards 4. Like I can't explain it. Like it's not like a lust, it's not like a love. It's like we're being pulled towards one another. And it's something that obviously new types have a hard time articulating. Well, what if they are being pulled together, and then once those atoms collide, you get that kind of, you know,
I
nuclear
do
reaction?
think there is something to that. They've talked about new type attraction. It seems like a lot of times in these stories with Gundams, the new types, you know, with Gundam stories, the new types end up coming together. You know, and that's also it's very interesting because you know, a new type gives off a brainwave, right? And the other thing too is when I've been doing this research and, you know, with quantum mechanics, gravity, the idea is gravity is more of a gravity is not a force, but it's a what am I trying to say? It's a result of something. Because it's a very, very tiny force. You only feel gravity at large scales. So the more accumulation of mass, the more gravity tends to appear. So that could be, you know, what's happening with new types, their consciousness, the brain waves, depending on maybe how powerful they are, because we see sometimes, who knows, even with Cassilia, because I assumed Cassilia was a new type just because it was like the zombies probably were. But in this, they almost
I don't think so.
confirmed it. You don't think so? I always assumed it. But in this, they confirmed it because she was hearing the Lala song. And the person's like, I don't hear anything.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and you know, in the original series, she was the only one that like truly believed that new types existed,
yeah,
which is why she brought in Char and Shaliabul, and
yeah.
and come
So,
on, she was the only person that picked up on Char's secret identity.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, it is interesting because, you know, when I was reading the interview with the director, which is not Anno, you know, it's another guy, he really talked about how the new type phenomenon was like his favorite part of the original Gundam and wanted to explore that more. So I really do think, you know, it's going that direction anyway. I would say this is more fantastical than we've seen before. Yeah, I don't know, Kyle. I
Yeah.
know you were covering Unicorn lately. Do you think Unicorn gets the most fantastical in UC?
Definitely gets the most bullshitty.
Especially near the end with the time crystal concept.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I'm trying to think what else could.
Well, is it
Yeah.
narrative where they make they make the mobile suit like go back in time and
No, it doesn't go back in time. It's still, well, because it's part of what's her face's consciousness. It just drifts off in space. I don't think it travels through time, but it still exists technically. Probably hanging out with Jupiter or something.
And I forget if it was that or Unicorn. Sorry, where I think it's Unicorn, where they shoot out the cables to the mobile suits and turn them into zombies.
Yeah, that's Unicorn.
Yes, that's Unicorn.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Although you could explain that with technology in so many ways, just like some AI virus. So, I mean, and I'm bringing this up because I think GQuux is the most fantastical, but it does it in terms of the rules to a degree of new types that we know in UC, where it's not too crazy, you know, because they're kind of playing off that animation, the kaleidoscope effect or whatever. You know?
Yeah, you know what? I have a feeling there is going to be something at the end where it's like a Donnie Darko situation, and the Shar disappeared and was like in the main UC timeline the whole time, and he's like trying to get everyone to merge back into the main UC timeline, and I will hate that if they do that. But
you gotta understand, if I just drop Axis onto Earth, we can all see the Kira Kira.
I'm getting vibes that it's heading in a weird, like, multiversal, like, fusion of two reality type of things.
I would like them to just go all out. They might as well. I feel like I have no stakes in this because it's just a side story. You know, it would be so bonkers. Okay, here's an example. That Flash movie that came out. You know how it kind of did that near the end? Like, that movie wasn't really bad, but also it's not like it. It's not like it. Hey, I liked it a lot, but it's weird because I also like Batman vs Superman, but I think those are completely different movies.
They're bad in
too.
their own ways for sure.
Yeah. But no, how in the Flash movie it does all those callbacks. I mean, including the black and white stuff. So it'd be neat if G-Quux, the end of it, happens to be some sort of celebration of that, and they're like animating after war. F91. Oh my god, G Savior.
Oh yeah, it's probably going to end with people clapping and saying congratulations and all that.
Yeah, congratulations on another war.
Yeah. It's going to be the three of them just hanging out and talking at the end, most likely.
So what do you guys think of the three main characters, Machu, Nian, and Shuji? Like, what's your take on them?
Yeah, I'll say that I think they're kind of cool characters so far. Like, I think Shuji's just kind of mysterious. Don't really know what's going on there. So
yeah, let me just turn my head sideways and
good.
oh look, I'm weird. I get big. If you ever saw that Riverdale show, where like there's the scene of the Sprouse brother that's like, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't exactly fit in. It's like that's Shuji.
It's funny because it's like sometimes he seems like he's ignorant of himself, but then sometimes it seems like he's playing into it. So I see what you mean. I do like Neon, and I'm hearing them pronounce it Neon, and I like the word neon. Like, so I'm just, but I like that character. I was sad about how that episode ended because those are always tragic things. That's like Gundam trope, Yeah, Kyle, what about you?
I think the characters are kind of blank slates, for the most part. I guess Machu has the most personality at this point, but even her is kind of, there's not too much to go off of. I kind of find it fascinating how many fans are just making their own version in their head of whatever these characters are, because there's not too much to work on.
Yeah, it's funny seeing like memes about what they've drawn from interactions. I'm like, oh, interesting interpretation.
But yeah, there's nothing. They're just serving kind of their role at the point. There's nothing really unique about them, personally. I don't think. Yeah. There's not. I like the tomato look of Machu. That's about it. It's very memeable, but yeah. Give me something. I'm hoping these last few episodes are gonna dive a little more into him, because at the moment they're just kind of vessels to serve.
Yeah,
plots and their Gundams. Yeah.
I hate to say this, but they're like anime slop. I hate saying that, but you know what? It's almost like they fit those anime tropes to be there for that. Yeah. Because it almost seems like even the American voice actor for Shalia Bull knows the assignment. You know what I mean? Because even though they're playing him like a secondary character, I feel like that is the meat of the storyline. And the acting for, not being the Japanese having to translate, I like that character every time he's on screen. You guys?
It's a good character. He's a good character.
He's got some great on-screen presence.
Yeah, it's really all aura, as the kids say.
Yeah, that is.
He was always, even in the original series, I was always like, this guy is, what's up with this dude? This is like, he was the first Newtype, considered one of the first Newtypes, and we barely get to see him.
And looking good for a 35-year-old.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
No, that's funny. Yeah, it's funny because he kind of reminded me of the Ramba Ral type, except that Ramba Ral probably had more disdain, possibly, for what was going on, but just had to do his duty to a degree. With Shalia Bull, probably once you're caught up at that high degree of being a human, I guess, because you're a Newtype, you're in these experiments, like that kind of supersedes any sort of ideology sometimes. I don't know. Maybe it's a personal thing, but and I don't know how much they're really thinking about that when writing this character. And it could just be Shalia just turned out well. You know what I mean? Any other characters from G-Quux that stand out? I don't think there's much more to really.
Not really. Anki is kind of she's on the line, like she wants to help Machu by pushing her away, but she's the one who got her into the battles to begin with. So I don't know where they're going with her character. Really, she's on the fence. I have a feeling now that Shuji's gone, they're going to use Chalia as a tool. Be like, you lost your twink, well, I lost my twink. Let me tell you this story, and then they're going to tell the Solomon story. I
Oh,
assume. Yeah.
wow.
Well, and now he's lost his second twink since it turns out that
Xavier.
Xavier,
Yeah,
Olivier,
Javier.
Oliver's Xavier,
Yeah,
whatever his
I
name is,
understand.
Xavier Oliver, turned out to be a Cassilia spy.
Yes.
That's very
Mm.
well. Okay, here's another thing then. Other than characters, story, whatever, any mobile suits that stand out? And I'll just go first if you guys want to think about it, because in general, I like the mobile suits. I mean, honestly, I don't really care for the G-Quux a whole lot. It's a unique design. I like the look of the red Gundam, but even with the classic Gundam colors, because I love the yellow and black, caution. I think that gives it an engineering look.
Yeah.
I do like the Dom, yeah, the Rick Dom we got. The Zaku's I'm fine with. The legs are a little weird, but it's all right for a robot. The Guyan that showed up, Guyan that showed up, it seemed all right. I don't know.
I mean,
I enjoyed
Yeah.
the Gyan. It's probably the better Gyan. I still kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, I enjoyed the design. I mean, it didn't serve any purpose story wise for the most part, but yeah, the design's good. I liked personally my favorite, which barely got any screen time, is the gun tank. That's still
Oh,
my favorite design out of all of these. I do like the Humbrabi. I think that's probably because there's not too much changes outside of the weird
right.
tilt in the neck. Just got that tech neck, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. How that does look pretty cool, but yeah, it wasn't used too much.
I
So
was gonna
just
say I liked the ham baby myself because
Ham
it
baby.
it really did feel like more of just a modernization of the original Hammurabi
Yeah.
design. It wasn't like it wasn't like what they did to the Gelgoog. Let's put it that way.
Make it a GM. Yeah, make it an MO.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
uh, the
With Dodger
other,
ties.
what was the other one that? In the obviously the Psycho Gundam. I loved that design completely, because really it seemed like they tried to take from both, almost merging both Psycho Gundams.
That was a refrigerator. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that whole
There's
thing
a
was cool.
refrigerator with an Eva inside.
Um, let me think. Was there any other? For some reason, I thought there was another. Oh yeah, the Browbro. Browbro. How it had.
Rubber,
Well,
yeah.
okay. So I think it has a different name.
Kikoroga.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because originally it didn't transform. That's just this new thing they added. But I don't know if in the wiki it's like it's the same model number but different name. So I don't know if it's really intended to be just a completely different one, or it's the next version because it has that transforming element to it.
The Kikoroga was a MSV originally, Kunio Kawada design back in the day. I think it's just them kind of turning it into a transformable mobile suit. So it's like both the Brow Bro transforms into whatever this old design was, which doesn't look
Oh,
like
that's
the stick figure at all.
But no, that is a cool idea. That's just more examples in the G-Quux universe where like lines kind of merge. So maybe you get a name or the technology, and then the things are that's pretty cool stuff. Well, cool. Any final thoughts on G-Quux?
I think they're following a lot. Have you guys read the book at all? Gundam Awakening?
Yeah.
Awakening, Escalation, Confrontation.
The trilogy, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
There was a couple pulls from there. So if you want to look out for some Easter eggs, I would go check out the book. I know like little things like they call White Base before it became the Sodom, it was called Pegasus instead of White Base. Like little things
Right.
like that. They're pulling tiny things from the book.
Oh
Right,
wow.
and it's a rocking horse instead of Trojan horse.
Yes.
Mm. Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah,
That's a
so
good-
they are
good
going
call out.
deep. But I wonder how much it is them, like you were saying, or like they're going to okay, what's something obscure? So I don't know. Are you guys familiar with the band Bad Religion?
Sure.
Okay. They would write their lyrics that have words that were very large, multi-syllable, whatever. But they even got to a point where some of the guys in the band would purposely go to thesauruses and purposely just find the biggest words that, and then make lyrics just seem like that. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. But okay, I'm gonna move on real quick. So that Gundam Seed Battle Destiny remastered just dropped. I know, Stephen, we talked about you're thinking of getting it. Kyle, does that interest you at all?
Is it on Switch? Because could. Oh, then I know I could do some things to get it for.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Well, it's funny because it's only on Switch and PC.
Interesting.
Which is weird. Which not going to get into it, but so I've been playing it. It's actually a lot of fun. They took a Vita game from 2011, 2012, and it, for the most part, has that sort of Gundam style of gameplay from back then, and it works. It's fun. I've been playing it a little bit today, and it's one of those games too from that era where sometimes you do have to grind a bit. You will play a level and get completely decimated to be like, okay, I got to upgrade this guy. Okay, and then I can go in and wipe the floor. So it has that little bit of a grindy nature to it, but it's just interesting how Bandai remastered an old Vita game. Remember, PlayStation Vita, remastered it, pretty much putting it into Unreal Engine 5 and then putting it on PC and Switch. None of that makes sense, but it's just cool that they're doing this in the first place, that they are willing to remaster old games. And Kyle, I don't think you really play games as much as Steven and I, correct?
Yeah, I don't play games as much anymore.
But any Gundam games that you can think of that you played before that you enjoyed?
I still play Endless Waltz to this day. I'll just pick it up, play a couple rounds. The fighting game, the Endless.
Super Nintendo?
Endless Duel. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is actually a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a real. So did you not really play many of the 3D ones?
Not really. I keep saying I'm gonna go and play. What's the
Side Stories?
Rise of the Ashes.
Oh, Rise from the Ashes.
Yeah.
So you might want to just get Side Stories on PS3 because it has Rise of the Ashes in it. Although the Dreamcast version is better.
Yeah.
Because it's first person. The new one makes it third and a little easier, but the new version, and that was kind of my point I wanted to get to, is I think the biggest thing that Bandai Namco should do next is port that Side Stories game into the Unreal Engine that they're using, because it has all those stories, Yonic Front, right? All those old
exactly, Blue Destiny, Missing Link.
It's the best way to get people, because those are stories that are all canon with each other and they work in UC. And so that's the other thing. When you go, I like to see what people say about when these Gundam games release, because I'm always curious about Gundam fans when it comes to video games, because I've been a long time video gamer, and Gundam fans aren't that vocal in the video game realm. Now, there might be a loud little group for a specific game, like GBO2 has that little group, but it's loud. SD Gundam Battle Alliance, the little group that was loud was, this shouldn't be SD. For what I'm seeing so far for this Battle Destiny is that it should be UC. Wow. Like people want, and I'm surprised. I didn't know what the market would be of Seed versus UC in the United States at this time.
Well, so all of those PSP, PS Vita era games like Battle Chronicle, Battle this, Battle that, there's like a whole family of those battle games and so there are UC ones that came out around that time. So I think that the decision to go with Seed just came from, we just got like UC games. So throwing Seed.
True, and then the Freedom movie last year, and they can write off that. Yeah.
But I think that those games and like those older Gundam versus games are the closest thing to like a true Gundam video game format that we've ever gotten. Everything else is like a different type of game that's just skinned with Gundam stuff, right? Yeah. Like Gundam Evolution and even like Gundam Breaker.
Yeah, and as much as I really like playing this Gundam Battle, whatever it's called, they're all Battle Alliances, whatever. The thing you brought up with Versus is, the root of this gameplay is, I think, what Versus evolved into, and what Versus is so there's a lot base of these types of games that were on PSP, Vita, PS2, whatever, are kind of rooted in that gameplay, which is very like a Gundam thing now. But I would also say alongside that would be like if they could go back to the Rise from the Ashes type, because I do think in Gundam, in any IP, there is a case to be made to make two different game types that are different perspectives. Just because of what they could entail. One could be more simulation based, one could be more or simulation or environmental, and one could be more like level based or a cheaper game, or it reminded me of playing the Macross Shooting Insight. It's a 2D shmup that didn't just come out about a year ago, maybe. And it's just interesting sometimes to see that the Gundam brand doesn't do that. Like, they can make a shmup, they can make a survivor like, but.
So I know, what was it, like 10 years ago when they re-released, they came out with a brand new, all new storyline for a James Bond video game.
Oh yeah, Bloodstone.
That.
And then guess what they released the same day as that game? They released the remastered version of GoldenEye. So guess what sold? GoldenEye sold, the other game didn't. So I think they don't want to do that. They don't want to split their audience in any way, shape, or form.
Especially not for nostalgia bucks, because the nostalgia is always gonna, like, people are gonna buy the remastered and remakes before they buy something that's a truly new piece.
Yeah, so I hope that is the path Bandai Namco is going on, because they're not doing the prestige games.
Well, so now Classic Quarter Gameplays just dropped a rumor in chat.
Here we go. Thank you, Stevie. At $10. Thanks, man. I heard a rumor online Gundam Seed will make an appearance in G-Quux. If true or not, that would be interesting. Okay. So, here's a couple things I will say about that. I am completely open in thinking that could happen. Just again, what we talked about, how bonkers G-Quux is getting. That would be another angle to get fans, another generation of fans over, around it. So who knows what the rumor is? Classic Order. I don't know if that was just someone said they heard, or where they got the source from. But
the nature of the internet is,
I would say I wouldn't
on that Zelda 2 remake from way back in the day that Brian Stelter teased us with.
Well, I think I feel like that would be the right way to go. You might as well. I feel like they should just do whatever with this series. Because I don't feel like there's any intention there,
I don't play, but I will say this. They're not going to give Yu Kajima an anime. They're not going to give Master Rare an anime. They're going to remain in the video games.
100%.
So if they're going to remain in the video games, they need to constantly be updating these titles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad you made a case that way. And that makes sense. And that could also make sense why they put the effort to do it in the PS3 era, to put all those games together. I'm glad you brought that up, because I really do think that's grounds.
Those game titles, Adam, you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, like the difference between mechanics hard versus numbers hard games, right? Like, is it a question of just leveling up your character and grinding until you can beat something? Or if you're good enough, can you beat it without leveling up? And those old games, my favorite being Gundam versus Zeta Gundam, you can play through that Universal Century mode without upgrading any mobile suits the entire time, if you're good enough. So
I love that stuff. I do. I love when games do that. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Kyle.
I was just gonna say, I tried to do back in the day a Final Fantasy VIII run through with no junctioning. That is hard.
What's no junctioning?
So it's like you have these guardians, kind of like your summons that you kind of equip, and if you equip the summons, it gives you different stats and stuff like that. You can play the game without ever equipping them.
And it reminds me of going through Dark Souls Bloodborne without summoning someone to help you. Yeah. I like that.
Pokemon runs, Nuzlocke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it when games do that. Kind of give you options. Like even in Bolt Gun, the Warhammer boomer shooter, you can go to options and turn on invincibility and unlimited ammo. So if you just feel like going through the game and shooting things, Okay, so we're getting near the end. The last thing I wanted to talk about is actually just Zeta Gundam, because since this is an anniversary show, I guess 200th, and Wing has their thing, and Zeta, what 40th to 45th?
Yeah, 40 years of Zeta, 30 years of Wing.
Yeah, I did the roulette wheel. Do they call it that? And I picked Zeta. So since we're going to talk Zeta, I wanted to use this time, Kyle. I'm going to ask you so you can prepare what your favorite suit from Zeta is. And then Steven and I will talk about ours
myself.
But hold on, Steve, but we're going to play differently.
Okay.
I'm going to guess yours and you're going to guess mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Steven, I'm going to guess your favorite is the Zeta.
Once again, you have judged correctly.
But I don't know if you're going to get this.
Mark II.
Oh my God, you got it.
Look at that.
That was good. Okay, Kyle, I'm going to guess yours.
Okay.
For some reason, I'm just thinking of Jared. What is it?
It's the Mark II as well. I would say it's the Mark II.
Yes.
If we were to throw Zeta Define in there, I would go Zero Shiki.
Ooh,
yeah. That's cool.
Zero Shiki's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do you like the Mark II?
I think we talked about this maybe a while back, but cool. I think
because I thought we talked about this.
Yeah. Okay, but it is like the Gundam form perfected. Like
yes,
it is
exactly.
It is perfect in my mind of what like the Gundam is. Everything after it feels like we're going into new territory.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And I feel like they did that intentionally with the show, and I feel it in its bones, especially when the upgraded suit mid-season is something that looks like the Zeta in 1985. Yeah. Like, even so I was watching anime by going through the year, and even things in 86 and 87 out of Japan. There was something called not Dragon R or it's something in 86 or 87. It reminds me of stuff I see in Zeta. I'm like, I can't believe how amazing Japanese animation was in the mid 80s. But
now, I'm going to ask you both to elaborate.
Yeah.
Which Mark II do you prefer, Ayug or Titans?
Titans.
Ayug.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how there's a difference there. It's cool. But I do love, like, that was the other thing too when I first watched Zeta after watching the original Gundam, when the Gundam showed up and it was black, the Black Gundam they call it, but the Titan colors. I thought that was another awesome, cool thing to like throw on top of here's the new Gundam, when it's black.
Now, can you imagine if that happened in 2020's era? Like, you would have so many online fanboys being like, "What? The Gundam's a bad guy. The Gundam can't be a bad guy."
Not realizing
expectations.
That's actually interesting. That I bet that would happen. Yeah. And then, hey, real quick too, some favorite moments from Zeta. Mine, a serious one and a funny one. Mm-hmm. If I remember, this is in Zeta when I think they're in Africa, and then like Camille's seeing all these mobile suits getting shot, and then he on his zoom finder or whatever rangefinder looks at a monkey, and then it gets blown up, and he's like, ah.
It's the Battle of Jaburo, yeah.
Oh, okay, it was Jaburo.
And it's a baby monkey holding a mommy monkey's arm that is severed from the mommy monkey.
See, isn't that crazy about Zeta? Like, it has.
It's like Tomino saw that scene in Return of the Jedi with like the dead Ewok.
The Ewoks.
Like, I got you, Lucas. I can do you one better.
I bet that's the case. That is hilarious because it was weird seeing Ewoks and the violence as a kid, and it was like, what? I don't understand the feelings here. The one that I like the most, or the kind of theme in it, is when like me as the viewer was like, that's Char, but they never say it for a while. So as the viewer, it's like, obviously, but why aren't they saying anything? What is going on? You know what I mean? Like, I loved that storytelling technique. So, What about Kyle? You, what are some favorite things from Zeta?
Let's see. Favorite things. My favorite funny moment is Camille looking back at Katz going, "He's fine," and then he just blows up.
Oh,
That's still my favorite.
oh,
He's good.
I
Whatever.
hate that death. Oh,
Oh, it's so good. And then let's see. Other moments. I love Emma's speech to Camille before she dies. Probably
Oh,
one of the
Very
best
touching
moments.
moment. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I saw that recently. Yeah. That and man, there's things that are obvious, but you don't think about it, and when you think about it, it makes it fuller. And it's when Steven, how he tells me things like, think about how intentional you have to be with animation, and it makes me appreciate the storytelling that much better because it's like in slow motion acting the character's intention, but you're drawing it, and it takes a long time. It's like slow motion acting or something. I don't know. I love it. Yeah, Steven, some of your favorite Zeta moments?
Well, I mean, sentimental, like obviously you guys are gonna call me the hopeless romantic, but like
Uh,
the whole
oh,
montage of Four and Camille when they first meet, and you got that Cinderella 4 song playing, and then that guitar solo hits, and they have their first kiss out in like the middle of Hong Kong at night. I'm like, that makes me feel that nostalgia for the 80s that like I didn't experience, right? Like oh yeah, I could totally imagine like when I was a teenager in the 80s. Wait a second, like didn't happen.
yeah.
So yeah, that one always hits me real close to home. But then, you know, I don't want to end on a dour note. So of course, funny moments. It doesn't get funnier than Camille scissor kicking Jared off of a cliff during the Kilimanjaro fight, and he's got his crutches like
Yeah.
oh man.
I do know that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Camille offers no mercy to you even if you are injured.
It's true.
That's funny. That's because he just wants you to stay away. Stay back. Yeah, well, something else that's pretty neat is, well, in Kyle, I don't know how often we talk about this, but how often do you buy Gundam collectibles?
Never.
Okay, so you're not, yeah, because I know you're not much of a collectible guy. You're more of the creator type, you know,
But
all in on that.
and that's what makes your skits that much more impressive is that those are cosplays. Like these are
Yeah.
like the costumes that you're wearing are not things that you just bought online. They're costumes that you've made, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which is cool. It helps that a lot of what it is military stuff, so you can just get like military surplus and kind of design on top of it. So that's definitely helpful. And there's a lot of people on Etsy recently that are just making Gundam mission badges that are helping me out a lot. So those Etsy people, thank you for making random mission badges because I will put them on my uniforms.
Nice.
Okay, well, that's kind of collectible stuff right there.
Yeah,
I was kind of curious. No, because I love it. I love it when someone is into the same thing but a different way. You know what I mean? Like that's why I think those videos are awesome, the live action things, because there's a lot of work that's put into that. You know, and you know, it's like when I was on, there was this podcast I was on yesterday, and the guy was talking about when he met his friend that's on the podcast with him. They were in college, and he was just at the college and saw a guy sitting down playing a Game Boy Advance. And he was like, oh, that guy, we're going to be friends. You know, it's one of those things, you know, it's like that one thing that's like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's what's cool about Gundam, you know, because even though it seems like you can find a lot of people that like it, when you do come across someone that likes it, it's like, whoa. And then you want to talk about it, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Last thing I want to end with, because I know like you with filmmaking, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts on the Gundam live action movie?
Is that happening still?
Yeah, I know there's not much information.
Yeah,
you know,
started filming last month.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
it started.
Okay.
Apparently,
it's the one dude with the did the Sweet Tooth movie right now.
Yeah.
It's not what's his name anymore. I kind of fell off after John Voight Roberts kind of fell off, but I'm sure it'll be cool. I don't know. Whatever.
I was curious. I'm rating your enthusiasm of the live action stuff because for me that's huge.
I'll let you. I'll have you. This is like my Bruce Banner Hulk moment. I'll let you in on a little secret. I don't like anything. that's my superpower.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I do. That's why I do so good. Is that I'm like, I don't care. Even the things I like, I'm kind of over it at this point. But
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps me kind of, I guess, not delusional.
Burnt out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
burnt out.
It's
Yeah.
the perfect amount of emotional detachment that you need.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's like the humor with your stuff and how you're able to have all those lore videos still, and it's cool stuff. So yeah, guys, again, a link right below for Simply Newtype, and you've probably seen them in the chat too, every once in a while. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna head out. This was a lot of fun. Steven, glad you're back again.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
Kyle,
for
glad that
taking
you're
me back.
here. This was a lot of fun to celebrate 200. Nothing fancy.
Yeah,
But,
congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, it's been fun with you guys helping me out with this. It's been awesome, and thanks to you all in the chat, especially Classic Quarter Gameplays. Thank you for the super chats. All right, heading out. All have a good night. See you later.